right. So what's the biggest myth about, in your opinion, about personal wealth building and creation?
Ooh, it's a good question. There's lots of myths. I think I think the biggest one is that it needs to be difficult, or that you need to be super informed. It never has been that. Look, some of the best investors started young, and if there was one thing that would be a common theme running between them, is that they would spend less than they had and invest the difference in something that grew in value. And as long as they had enough kind of different little things going on, if one went bad, then the others would pick up. It's never been rocket science. The problem is the companies that you invest in survive by tricking you, forcing you, convincing you, blackmailing you, the citizens, to buy their product when you don't need them. And then, so all of the Fortune 1000 companies across the globe, their job is to make you buy their stuff when you don't need it, right? And then when you're out of money, then they'll come along and get a bank to lend you some money so you can buy more crap from them. So the companies that you invest in are also working against you to try and get you to buy their crap. And then therefore you spend more than you earn. You don't have enough to invest and left over. And they become so good at it. So good.
So we know what the myth is then. So what would you recommend that people do to actually create personal wealth that maybe they're not doing at the moment?
Yeah, cool. All right. Look, the one thing that will cost you nothing to do is to track your spending. Track your spending. You don't have to have an app. However, there's plenty of apps out there that will track your spending for you and see where your money goes, right? In the old days, they'd do it, we'd say to someone, oh, write down every transaction for 90 days. Let's see where you're spending more than you should be or whatever. And work out how much we can save and then work out what we can invest in. And as long as when you're starting out with money, you can't put it in the bank, because everyone goes, oh, you need some diversification, But if you're just starting out, if you're a young person who's maybe 20 and you can only put away $200 a month, then it better be in something that's pretty risky, right? You've got to put it in the stock market. You can't put it in the bank. However, if you're 50 and you have these good savings patterns and you're spending, less than you earn, yes, you can have some money in the bank. It's called spreading it around a bit. It's called, for a rainy day. It's important, but you have to go harder a bit earlier when you're young into diverse investments. And I suppose, look, it's not financial advice, but there's not the things that give you the most diversity on the stock market are generally exchange traded funds, because they track an index, which is a broad range of companies, generally in the weighting that they sit on the stock exchange. Look, there's problems with so many exchange traded funds in the system. However, it's probably the best way to do it. Or you just go, okay, I'm going to save up. As soon as I get $5,000, I'm going to go and buy one stock, $5,000. And I'm going to learn about it. I'm going to watch how the dividends work. And I'm going to keep saving my money. Then when I get another $5,000, I'll decide, should I buy that stock again or should I buy a different stock? You could do that. Right? But if you don't know how much you're spending, then how do you know how much you can invest, right? And so once upon a time, I think there used to be this a trigger for success was either your intelligence, right? Like skill set is talent is not distributed equally. If it was, I could play for the New York Knicks. Well, I probably could now. Irving's playing now, right? I could play too.
That was mean, but true.
That's true. However, I believe, well, it could, we'll go flat earth one day. However, I think that the people that will be successful in the future are the people that can control their addictions and be disciplined. And when I say addictions, it could be like, I have to buy a coffee every day. I have to subscribe to this thing. I have to play 10 hours of computer games every weekend. It's good segue. I'm addicted to coffee. Like, can't do without a coffee a couple of times a day.
Because I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, what happens is if you can't battle those little micro spending addictions, then you haven't got anything left over to invest. And what it means is you can't start early enough to compound. You can't start in your 20s, your early 20s, because you're keeping up with your friends and you're getting a loan for a car and you want to go out all the time, all these things. And I'm not saying don't live your life. I'm saying that there's somehow you need to understand what you're spending. And if you can get past those addictions and that bit of, inner control, I don't think you need to be intelligent to be successful anymore. Look, I understand that there's a whole segment of society in the US that says there's two tiers, those who went to college and those who didn't. But that's actually a causation of this system that they've created between families, right? So, but if you took all that out, and because you could have someone who's Ivy League college and that sort of stuff, and could have a crack addiction and a porn addiction, and could go down the gurgler pretty quick if they left their laptop somewhere or something. You never know.
I've also met plenty of people that went to Ivy League schools that couldn't spell cat if you gave them the C and the T. So, yeah. there is that as well.
Absolutely. So I think that the myths that about investing that it's difficult, it's only for the wealthy. No. It's actually for the disciplined. And it sounds, if you go back to Warren Buffett, those guys, that's kind of, and Charlie Munger, that's kind of what they talked about, the discipline of it. It was not getting too excited when things were on a boil, and not getting too scared when things were on, but being able to consistently put something into the market and into a smart place, and trying to hang on for as long as he could. I mean, if you listen to Warren Buffett, it's rare for him to sell stuff. If he sells something, he really wants to sell it. He usually hang on for decades on most things. Unless there was a good reason to sell a company, he would just hang on forever. So look, the thing that you would want the people to take away is the real path to wealth is accumulation, not trading. So let's say it again. The real path to wealth is accumulation, not trading. And why is it not trading? Because the government takes all the profit, called tax. That's the problem. And everyone goes, well, they can't tax crypto. We made a hit trading crypto. No, they're coming for crypto. They're going to start taxing crypto profits. And look, they are in Australia.
They go where the money is.
Yeah, you're right. Every time in history that somebody started making one sector started making money, the government started taxing it. And there's some really good examples in America where they started making different taxes, money on property. So they started bringing property taxes, and I think it might have been like coffee and tea or something. Then they started taxing that. Whenever one section of the society starts making money, the government goes, hang on, we want part of that. In they go.
Well, there was an economist that he was advocating for the legalization of weed, and he said something to the effect of the illegal drugs industry is the only industry in history that has made significant amounts of money where the government did not come in and demand a cut of the taxes, and it's basically because they've got this catch-22 where they don't want to legalize it, but they would sure like the money, but they can't decide which one's more important, the morality, quote unquote, or the money.
Yeah, look, and mate, I'm sure Canada, for you would know better than I do. Canada is decriminalised or legalised the sale of marijuana in there. Is there storefronts that get taxed on the sale of marijuana in Canada?
Now there are. And they've become sort of similar to Holland, I guess. I'm not sure exactly if it's the same legalization set up in every province. I doubt it, because much like Australia, the local governments have a lot more sway than the federal do. So it's probably in Vancouver, the rules are much different than they are in Toronto. But all over the place is. But I mean, you look at somebody like a Pablo Escobar. The guy had so much money that it was actually going bad. It was rotting because it was sitting. He had it sitting underground. And well, you've seen the Netflix, right? You've seen
Yeah, absolutely.
you've seen
It's so
Narcos, right?
good.
It's
So
but
good.
but that's the only time in history really that people have been making that much money and the government did not come in and go, hey, give us a percent. I guess they did in a way because they would seize a lot of the product and so they would seize a lot of money and get their taxes that way. But just the legal collection of taxes is just one of the only times. Any other time the government's right there taking their fair share.
Absolutely. And yeah, it was sort of like I heard a story, and it might have been in Portland in the US, where that's kind of and Portland's kind of been the lead for a lot of these things, for as well. I think they've actually got LSD, trolling LSD sort of things, which I think is actually, that's kind of where I think it's pretty amazing they've gone that far. But they were saying that they had to drop the tax on the tax that was levied on top of their bag of weed that was getting sold, because what was happening was, so they go, yeah, here we are, we're going to tax this, and so they put their tax on top, and the price was too high, so the backyard guys were undercutting them, and what was happening is, it's pretty much the registered owners went, hey, you're killing us. You're killing us. The guys that are selling backyard weed can do it because you're putting this ridiculous tax on. You get too greedy, and they've had to drop it, which is really interesting. So supply and demand has sorted that out in a very interesting fashion.
Well, it's a good study of the free market enterprise, right? I guess it's the same. If it's surprising that it hasn't happened with stuff like iPhones, where the iPhone's so expensive, somebody just like smuggles them in the country and sells them without the tax or something like that. I guess the taxes aren't high enough on it.
Look, mate, I think it'll be interesting to see if there becomes those sort of markets again, like, across the Iron Curtain. Oh, what'd you have? Jeans. Oh, pair of jeans. Levi's. Oh, and you get 5,000 rubles or something.
Very,
like
very.
They used to do in China, is to smuggle jeans into China.
That was a great Russian accent, I got to say. Thank you, Ivan.
I should stop my Russian accent. Yeah. Apologies to everyone out there. Yeah, and look, apologies to Russians. I love Russians, actually. But, really wanted to go to Russia. Love Russians. Love them. That's where I wanted to be. But obviously, that's not going to happen for 5 or 10 by the look of it. This is a shame. I really wanted to go.
But it's funny
up through the train.